I'm Dave Hatt. Okay. Lonely over there?
Catherine, can you do this? And Dave, can you do?
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, Ben, Vivian's here.
This meeting of the Berry County Board of Commissioners is called to order. Will Commissioners, staff, and guests please rise for invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Lord, we are thankful that you have brought us back here today. Please be with us as we wind down this board session. Please be with our leaders, present and future, as this county moves into a new year and new priorities. Lord, we again thank you for the opportunity to serve, and may your hand have guidance in all that we do. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the purposes of attendance, clerk call the roll.
Campbell.
Here.
Connor absent. Geiger.
Here.
Getty.
Here.
Gibson.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Smoker.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Approval of written agenda. At this time, any member of the public may ask for an item to be removed from the consent agenda and placed under items for consideration. Hearing no such request, does any commissioner wish to change the agenda additionally? Hearing no such request and without objection, the agenda is approved as written. Reports from state and county officers. Does any state or county officer or their representative have a report to share with the board?
I do.
Good morning, Julie.
Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Sorry, I'm not a real quiet person, so I'm going to move this. My name is Julie Ackford-Pratt, and I'm the prosecuting attorney here in Berry County. And I normally would be talking about county updates on other matters, but I think there's a couple today that are quite pressing, so I wanted to make sure that I address them. The first one that I wanted to address is the third detective position that has come into controversy. I watched different videos from different meetings. I have spoken to a lot of people, and I have done some legwork of my own so that I could give you the best, lay out the best case I can to tell you that I still think there is a need for one and why. I hope that you take what I have to say into consideration. This is not my budget. This is the sheriff's budget. This is not my employees. This is the sheriff's employees. But the prosecutor's office, when we issue charges in a case that's investigated by any police officer, and especially, I shouldn't say especially, but detective cases tend to be voluminous and they tend to be in depth, we have to take it to court. And we either settle a case because there's issues, or maybe we think justice is better served by settling it, or we go to trial. Both processes take a lot of time and consideration and effort. And when we get to that point, we arrive at that point, whether it's settle it or do a trial or charge someone, we do so because the detectives and the police officers do an amazing job of collecting evidence. So I want to go over a couple things that I know regarding that position, and I also want to tell you why I still think there's a need. Well, what do a police officer and or a detective do? So detectives are police officers that are generally designated or promoted to detective whichever way a police department does it. Well, a police officer and a detective's job is to fact find. That's what they do. A prosecutor's job is to seek justice, and the police officer's job is to fact find. I say that because when a police officer's doing their job, they're doing it with their minds wide open. Well, when their mind is wide open and they're doing their job thoroughly, and I'm going to pick on one of them, Detective Jeanette Mackey, who I've worked with closely over the years with homicides, sexual assaults, robberies, you name it. That person has to keep an open mind, because when you fact find, you're not in your head saying, well, I think Joe did it, so therefore I'm going to have a one-track mind. That's not how it's done. That's not how it should be done. So when they do that, they gather evidence. And when they gather evidence or find out there isn't any evidence or there's not enough evidence, they can submit it to us either way. And it comes to us either with a charging request. So that's a form that they put with their police report and their supporting documents that says to my office, hey, can you look at this and see if you think these charges are there? A prosecutor's office requires probable cause to charge someone. You need probable cause to arrest someone. You need probable cause to search, with or without a search warrant. And you need probable cause to charge a person. That's the standard. If I want to convict somebody, I need the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. But that's different than when you charge, you search, and you arrest. That becomes important, because when a police officer gets to the point where they submit something to my office, my job is to decide whether or not what they've given me has probable cause. What that factor doesn't weigh in, and what I need the community to know and what I'd like you to know, is that police officers work day and night. They work round the clock. It's a voluminous, painstaking effort to arrive at probable cause, but it's also the same effort, and sometimes even more, to arrive at no probable cause. Why is that important? Because if your child was sexually assaulted, you would want that police officer to do everything they could to charge that predator or that person. You would want me to do that too. You would want me to be fair. You would want me to do my homework. But if your brother or your dad or your uncle or your sister was under suspicion for sexual assault, and you know, or the evidence shows that they didn't do it, well, you would want my office, you would want the police officers, the detectives, to do the same, to put forth the same effort to clear them. Somebody once asked me, how many children go through Safe Harbor Children's Advocacy Center, which, by the way, is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, or excuse me, next year. Well, you could get 120 children coming through in 1 year, but maybe 30 result in a charge. Why is that? Because the police job isn't just to prosecute everybody they can. It's to clear people when they didn't do it. And I had a homicide case 4 or 5 years ago, and the police officer was a detective from the Sheriff's Department, Jeff Neuenhuis, with the help of Jeanette Mackey and others. We cleared him. The guy had a self-defense defense that I thought was viable. That guy deserves the same consideration as everybody else. Well, that's time-consuming. So when we talk about what a detective does and why what they do is so important, it's important for both reasons. I was a defense attorney for 4 years. I represented a lot of people. And a lot of those people, the system worked the way it was supposed to. There were other people that I was concerned. So as a defense attorney, I went to bat and went to trial or whatever it is I had to do. And if everybody's doing their job right, generally justice is served. Well, sometimes police officers come to me and they say, I don't know if there's enough. Can you review my police report and my charging request and tell me if there's enough? So there's either probable cause, there's not enough, and sometimes, unfortunately, those cases go cold. Cold means that we're not done with it, but we can't do much about it until we get more. Some cases have no probable cause. Not insufficient, none. And when that's the case, you know what? We're busy people. We have homicides, robberies, rapes, you name it. We have to concentrate on what we can concentrate on. And if there's no probable cause, pardon?
On what you can prove, right?
That's correct. That's correct. I was asked at the fair, and then I'm going to get to this in a minute. I don't want to get into it much now, but I was asked at the fair, don't you care about voter fraud? I care. I care about everything that comes across my desk, but I will not put my signature on something if it's not there. I'm not going to do it. The fourth reason, as we just talked about, probable cause, not enough, no probable cause, or completely clearing a person, which gives me 2 seconds to set the record straight on something. I've been asked about Colette Scrimger. Colette Scrimger is our health officer. I received a charging request from the sheriff's office for 2 charges for her: impersonating an officer and impersonating a doctor. Absolutely not. I not only denied those charges, I cleared her completely because she's not a police officer and she was not impersonating anybody. She was doing her own job. And you can hate it, you can be mad at it, you can get mad at her, whatever. Go to Lansing and complain about that. But if she didn't commit a crime, even if you disagree, impersonating a doctor, she's not a doctor. She's been given authority from the state of Michigan. And when she exercises that authority, you can like it or not like it. The person that apparently didn't like it went on trial and got convicted of disturbing the peace. My point I'm trying to make is my job isn't to go after everybody. My job is to seek justice. And I say that because there are times when my office receives things that just, Colette Scrimger has been cleared. It wasn't just that there wasn't enough. And with all due respect, Sheriff, that came from, I said your department, but that was your investigation. Well, all of the above consume a lot of hours, and they consume a lot of hours not only to prove them, but to disprove them if necessary. The other thing I want to say is there is a need for the caseload to be spread out, and this is why. Right now you have one detective, and I'll get to Mark Noteboom's thing in a minute. Again, this isn't my department. I don't have the discretion to tell people what to do, but I want to make a point. It's not just the legwork in these cases. You have legwork to find evidence. You have legwork to take evidence and decide whether it means anything. You're talking to people from the other side of the tracks. You're talking to people who don't want to talk. You're talking to victims who are terrified to come forward. And you know what? Sometimes, as in a murder case that I had last spring, that's the worst one I've ever had in my whole career, which is People versus Andrew LaFay, sometimes you're listening and you're trying hard day and night to help somebody who can't talk to you because she's dead, because she died, because somebody shot her and stomped on her 50 times. Well, Detective Mackey not only had to investigate that case, but Detective Mackey had to go in a giant circle and either fold into the suspect list or push out of the suspect list people that either didn't have anything to do with it or had something to do with it, but we just didn't know to what extent. Were they what we call an aider and abetter? Were they helped kill Grace Brickley? Or were they somebody who tampered with evidence? And mind you, people are innocent until proven guilty, but out of that, because of her hard work, and that of all of the police officers that jumped in and helped on that case, because of that, we have now charged 3 additional people with aiding or with tampering with evidence and accessory after the fact. They are innocent until proven guilty, but there's a 4th one too that's a suspect in that. Not in the murder, but in the tampering. That takes a lot of legwork. But when you spread it around a little bit, you're also spreading around the unbelievable toll it takes on a person. Not just to do a case like Andrew LaFay, but any case. The Andrew LaFay case included a video of Andrew LaFay killing his victim. He stomped on her 50 times after he shot her twice and broke her jaw with the butt of his gun. That video was 11 minutes long. It is the worst, and I've been doing this 34 years. It is by far the worst thing I've ever seen in my whole life. Detective Mackey had to repeatedly review that video for a couple reasons. One, somebody insisted they heard another voice, because all Andrew LaFay does is calls her names, and he's totally inappropriate with her the whole time. But there's a tiny moment in time in there where you can hear a voice, and it turned out to be his, but it was a voice inflection. She even took it to an expert. But she herself, before she took it to the expert, was trying to decide. In addition to that, she had to review it because while she was being murdered, Grace's phone was going off, and it was pinging. And we were trying to decide, for our purposes, well, why was it pinging? Who was trying to get a hold of her? Why? Whose phone is pinging? So we had to do search warrants. She did for everybody's phone, for everybody's Facebook. Well, the reason behind that is we want to know what's happening during this, and sure enough, we came up with some evidence throughout all that. Well, when she watched that video, it's not just re-watching a video. It's what the content of it weighs on you. It weighs on you. It caused me to suffer quite a bit, and I wasn't even on the front line. I go to murder scenes when I can. I did not make it to that one for various reasons. But it takes its toll. Well, if you have several people instead of just one working on something, that stress is spread out a little bit. It doesn't make it any more acceptable. It just helps spread it around. Well, in addition to the LaFay case, Jeanette Mackey and the other detective from the Sheriff's Department had to help with a case called People versus McClure. Mr. McClure just went to prison for 50 to 75 years for kidnapping his wife. He took her and her son. He took them up to the UP. He beat the crap out of her several times. He poked her eye out. I say out. I don't think she has any more vision in her eye. And all the way back, and then took her up there again. It was a nightmare. And from that case, with the help of the Sheriff's Department, Detectives Mackey and retired Detective Kimball, they were able to extract what we call CSAM. And again, this is an allegation. This is not proven yet because it's pending. But Alva McClure has recently been charged with various charges arising out of that. CSAM is child sexually abusive material. That case took round-the-clock police work. Because when we found out that Alan McClure was taking her up to the UP, it took several police departments from Barry County all the way up to Menominee, Michigan. Each department's trying to track these people down. They came home, they went back, and when they went back, they got intercepted in mid-Michigan somewhere. The amount of manpower, the amount of time and effort, and then it came to the hard part. This lady was so frightened of the situation that it took Detectives Mackey and Kimball hours just to build rapport with her and get her to trust them. Because justice can't be served by me making people go to court that don't want to go. We have to help people understand why they shouldn't, why their fear is valid, but we're going to try to help them. We'll try. So my point to all that is the amount of manpower in those cases. Timothy Riddle held up the gas station in Woodland. Again, I won't get into all the details. That was an officer-involved shooting, so it took the Sheriff's Department out of it at a certain point and put the state police in it. But the Sheriff's Department had to still do all their work on it. Patrick Gilmore shot and killed one of his friends with a crossbow, and he recently went to prison for the rest of his life. Sheriff's Department, City Police, Hastings City Police, and the state police worked together on McClure, even though it was the state police case. The toll that these cases take on someone emotionally and physically is indescribable. Well, when we get to court, if you don't have enough people or those people are exhausted, then it becomes an absolute race in time to make sure the defense attorney has what they need and that we don't break the rules by not giving them what they need as fast as they're supposed to get it. So it becomes a race in time. And if you don't have what you need, I'm going to tell you right now, I was front row. I was there last spring. If it weren't for the toll that it took on those police officers, we wouldn't have had the success that we've had. We wouldn't have been able to get everything to the courts. We wouldn't have been able to try the cases the way we did. But it took a toll, and it had a cost. So I think it's important for you to know what a police officer does. Now, this is all in addition to all the missing persons that Jeanette Mackey and Detective Kimball had to deal with. This is sexual assaults, all this stuff besides the case I just told you. My understanding is they can have 30 to 35 cases apiece at any given time. So what I just described to you, Barry County thankfully doesn't have a ton of murder, but you know what? One murder is enough. And people say to me, what are you talking about? You had a video. Come on, you better win that. I can't stand that. And you know why? People don't even understand. I say, I'm not pointing at you guys, but people say that to me, and it irritates me because they have no idea what toll it takes on me, because I am with I am not just going to talk at a victim's family. I talk with them. We work as a team. The victim family, me, the lab, the police, we're a team. My office, my whole office is part of the team. Because when we work as a team, then I'm not losing sleep day and night because it's all on me. We work as a team, and I tell you, that approach works. So I want to give you a quick timeline on something to get to the point of whether or not there should be a third detective position. And I know you're going to make whatever decisions you're going to make, and I respect all of you. In November of 2021, I came here with the sheriff, the undersheriff, Detective Mackey, and me, and we presented our case. You were generous enough to grant it pretty quickly, and I appreciated it. Well, Mark Noteboom, from what I understand, was hired in February or March, and if I have that wrong, so be it, but he wasn't hired in November that I'm aware of. When I say hired, I mean on the books. I mean on the books getting paid. So when he was hired, I mean, I was happy that we got a third detective. Yay, you know, we're going to get this going. He was hired, and he was given one case. So when I watched the video a couple weeks ago, I wanted to watch, and I'm not going to speak to something if I haven't seen it, at least this issue. It did not alleviate any stress for any detective. It was one case. They still had all the 5 million cases that they were dealing with. We still had not even tried the LaFay murder, the Riddle gas station holdup, and as it turned out, Mr. Gilmore pled guilty to first-degree murder. We hadn't even gotten to those yet for trial. And these people are struggling to get all that done. The voter fraud is a nonviolent case. And I listened to Mr. Smelker's questions, and I very much appreciated them. It's not even a violent case. I'm not saying it's not important, and I'll get to that in a minute, too. But and again, with all due respect, Sheriff said there was a big voluminous case because there was 5 binders. Well, let me tell you, I just tried a murder case and a gas station holdup that had 5 binders in one box and multiple boxes. And Detective Mackey and Detective Kimball dealt with all that, plus all their missing person cases, all their rape cases, everything else they have to do. That's not knocking, I'm not trying not to knock Mark Noteboom. What I'm saying is, I don't care if it's Mark Noteboom or someone else. That didn't help our cause. Our cause is this third person should be brought on board to take the load off and to spread the wealth around regarding all these cases. Well, the other issue I take with that is Mark Noteboom, not my department, but I'm telling you what I know from my viewpoint and what I've learned. I don't know how Mark Noteboom could replace another detective when that detective didn't even announce he was leaving until May. So between whenever Mark was hired in May, they worked in the same department. He didn't replace this detective, and he didn't leave until June, that detective. So for several months, they worked at the same time. There's another person that I saw in the video whose name was mentioned, Rose. I don't know when Rose was supposed to come. My understanding was maybe September. Again, it's not my timeline, it's the sheriff's, but this is October. We're getting towards November and she's not in yet. I'm really concerned because now we're down to one. And when I say one, I'm talking about one detective that deals with actual violent crime.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but
You're fine.
in the span of 1 year, when we voted to increase by a third,
Correct.
we've gone down by half.
Yes.
So we are now backwards from where we intended to be 1 year ago.
Yes. And I know that one left. I know. That made me sad because not only do I respect the daylights out of him, known him for decades, great person, and his reason for leaving is private. That's his reason for leaving, that's private. But I know for a fact it had way more to do with something he saw or something that happened. It had way more to do with that. One needs to look at the big picture.
Right.
And some people do move on and they do go and try something else in their lives. And I wish him the very best of luck.
You know, Julie, I've known you a long time. You sound angry.
I'm upset. I've told some of my close people that
You sound very passionate about this.
I am. And I want to be diplomatic about this
All right.
because to not be that way is counterproductive. By the same token, my job in this community is to seek justice, and I work alongside. As the chief law enforcement officer in this county, my job is to work alongside the police officers as a team to get there. They are great people. There are some that that we work with because they're new, or maybe they didn't realize there was a new law, or maybe we've got to work with shining up a few things. So what? Everybody is like that. But you've got to drive the bus. You have to drive the bus if you want everybody else to ride peacefully inside of it. And I guess what I'm saying is, for my part, when it comes to my office, and I look at what comes across my desk, I'm not going to go looking for trouble. I got enough to do. But when it comes across my desk, I am going to give it the same consideration that I would anything else. And so I wanted to sort of wrap up with voter fraud. It is the elephant in the room. I'm asked about it constantly. I've wanted so badly to come in here and talk about it. I've talked about it to the papers a little bit as best I thought I could. And I want to explain a couple things about it, but I want to say two things before I get into that. Kudos to Pam Palmer for not only her job, but for what she's done to educate me, to educate my women's club, to educate the community, to offer people to come in and see how it all works. She has done an amazing job, and I am, as a citizen, I no longer want to see a dark cloud above her or anybody else's head that didn't do anything wrong. I want that she doesn't deserve it. I'm done with that. I've seen nothing whatsoever on Pam Palmer. I've only seen her being harassed by people who can just walk the other way because I'm not tolerating it either. I saw the video of Scott Aughney. We're not tolerating it. And I want to give you a little bit of a time. Well, secondly, my big thing I want to say, please go out and vote. It's okay. It's safe. It's safe. It's safe in Barry County. I can speak to my own bailiwick, but it's safe. Please go out and vote. Here's a timeline I want you to be aware of. I became aware in the spring of 2021 that there was an issue. Now, my job isn't to do the investigation for anybody. My job is to look at it when it comes across my desk, or when I'm contacted by a police officer that says, hey, I'm not sure where to go from here. Can you guys tell me what the law says about search? Can you tell me whether this is allowed or that's allowed? That's fine. That's what we're here for. But I didn't know about it until I was contacted. That's okay too. I've told the media that's okay too, because I don't have to become aware of it. I can only tell you that when it's voluminous or high profile or something difficult legally, I usually am notified. I wasn't. My ego's not that big. We dealt with it. But In the summer of 2021, myself and Assistant Prosecutor Chris Ellsworth met at the Sheriff's Department with the sheriff, with a deputy, with Lynch, this Michael Lynch. We met with a guy whose name is out of my head for a minute that was with him, and Stephanie Lambert, who's a lawyer. We talked about this case. We talked about the pros and cons, the goods and the bads, and the voter fraud, and whether there was or wasn't any. It became a little contentious for a few minutes. This is my view, between myself and Ms. Lambert.
This is when, September
This
24th?
would have been the summer of '21, so June, July. I don't want to get into all the meeting, but I want to tell you it did become, only because we were trying to cut to the chase and figure out. So I jumped in to at least guide a little bit in the investigation on the legal aspect of it, and I want to make this clear. Never told anyone not to investigate or to stop doing what you're doing. I said take a pause so that we can figure a few legal issues out. Well, then I never heard another thing until spring of '22. And that's okay, because some cases fade a little while the police work on them, and then they come back to the forefront, and that's okay.
7, 8 months?
Yeah, yes. I was contacted in the spring of 2022 and told that the case is back active. Okay, well, when you have something you want me to look at, let me know. So I was given a search warrant, and I think it was FOIA'd. I did not give out the affidavit because it had names and so forth in it. I gave out the search warrant. It was for equipment, voters' equipment, tabulators, and so forth. This would have been around May or June of 2022. Myself and Chris Ellsworth, I wanted two of us, so two pair of eyes were looking at everything, both reviewed it, and said, no, it's not there. We're not doing it, we can't. So another thing I want to clarify.
What does it mean it's not there?
Well, in the state of Michigan, a police officer does not need to come, I want to make that clear. Police officer does not have to come to the prosecutor to get a search warrant. We don't have to approve it. They can go straight to a magistrate. Some counties do it that way, and some counties do it our way. Some counties have a requirement that you have the prosecutor. I say a requirement. It's probably a strong recommendation that you come to the prosecutor and we approve. There's a line on a search warrant that we can sign. And it just means we've had our eyes on it, and also we have to defend it if it goes to court. So when I did that, reviewed, there just wasn't any. There was no probable cause. It wasn't insufficient, there was none. So we told them that, and I figured people do this, they go back to the drawing board, I'm okay with that. My job is to look at it when it comes across my desk. I went out of state at the end of June. It came to my attention while I was gone that the judges or a magistrate, a judge were approached for their signature on the search warrant. By now there's 3. That's okay. Hey, that's not against the rules. But they said no. I don't see the prosecutor's signature on this, so no. Take it to the prosecutor. So it was taken to my office. I'm out of state. I'm notified that it's at my office. Chris Ellsworth looked at it. I looked at it as soon as I got back, and I think I was back in the state July 4th. So I looked at it somewhere around the 5th that week. All 3 of them now, because now there's 3. And then I wrote an email to Mark Noteboom and Sheriff Lee. There is no probable cause. We're not going to sign it. Now, that's it. There wasn't probable cause. I have been met with support and I have been met with anger, and both of them are okay. I didn't get into this job for the fuzzies. But to the angry people, I've said a couple things. It is not my job to try to fit a square peg in a round hole. I'm not going to do it. That's not what I was elected for. Number 1. And number 2, I will not put my signature on something that's not there. Now, prosecutor's job, for whatever reason, is partisan. I am a Republican. But I can guarantee you 100%, I really don't care what your affiliation is when I'm at my job. I mean, I have some conservative views about criminal justice, but other than that, it has nothing to do with the people that come in my door as a victim, as a witness, and as a defendant. I was a Republican when I was a defense attorney. Who cares? I've got a job to do. If the evidence is there and it's prudent to go forward, let's do it. But if the evidence isn't there, I will not put my signature on something if it's not. So circling back to those at FAIR that were upset, again, be upset. I'm not doing it. So what I want to say on that is I cannot tell others how to do their job. I will not tell police officers. I'll tell them, hey, that's not how you're supposed to search, or we got to tweak that. You can't search like that. I'm okay with that. But I also feel that there has to come a period of time, because I have heard absolutely nothing since July, and that's okay too. There comes a time where maybe we just need to turn around to our constituents and say, I can't do it. It's not there. And who knows, in time, I don't know what's going to come. There is no evidence of wide voter fraud in this county. There just isn't that I can see. And it's been a year and a half. If there is, prove it, and I'll take a look at it. But I don't want people going to the voter. There's two things. I'm going to circle back to the beginning. There's two things. I don't want people going to the voter booths nervous, as some people have expressed to me in November, because they don't know if it's been tampered or this has happened or that. Please go with confidence. I'm going to. Number two, you can't say the clerks didn't do anything and they're all great and everything's cool with the clerks, and then in the same breath say voter fraud. Those are the keepers of the gatekeepers. Can't have it both ways. If you got something, bring it on. But if you don't, let's move on. Let's move on. And I don't. It's not my call whether Mark Noteboom continues to. That's not my call. It's not my department at all. I'm just saying that we got stuff to do. We got stuff to do that's really important. We got victims suffering, houses broken into. We even have a bank robbery that we're trying to figure out. We have children being sexually assaulted. We have adults being sexually assaulted. We have cars being stolen. We have mentally ill people that need our help. If you're going to give that time of day, and I'm pointing this way because we need the Sheriff's Department on our CIT. CIT is crisis intervention team. That's the police officers, the prosecutor, the community mental health. Everybody's working together to when you go on a scene and somebody's having a hard time because of mental illness and not because they're a rotten criminal or they did something. There's got to be a different way we can handle it, and that's what our CIT is about. We need you on that. We need you on that. And they are on it, but I guess what I'm saying is let's put our efforts towards that. I'm not here I'm being careful in what I'm saying because it's wandering into the weeds is not helpful nor productive. We are supposed to work as a team, but it's getting increasingly difficult to work as a team when people are tired, they feel attacked, they are exhausted, they are overworked, they have too much. And I saw it firsthand last fall, and that's why I came here and spoke about somebody else's budget when I normally would not do that. I got my own. So what I'm saying is, just because someone made a policy decision or a decision in their own office doesn't mean that the other people in it didn't suffer and aren't suffering to this day. And it doesn't help the people in this community to have that. That doesn't help anybody. It certainly doesn't help the one detective that's left there. And it certainly doesn't, it's a trickle down. I can tell you that right now. So I know you have to do what you have to do. I guess what I'm thinking in my mind as a citizen for a minute and as a prosecutor, You have Jeanette Mackey, who's a detective. You have an open detective position from the one that left in June. You have a third detective position, at least as of this moment, and then you have Mark Noteboom in there. I don't really care what his designation is. He can work on voter fraud all he wants, excuse me. But if we're going to get back to the spirit of why we asked for the why we asked for the third detective, if we're going to get to the spirit of that, we need 3 people. The community, needs 3 people working on violent crime, missing persons, sexual assaults, and even nonviolent stuff like car theft. Carjacking is a violent crime, but car theft isn't considered. Embezzlement. We have some enormous embezzlement cases this year. We have, but you know what? We have our trespassings, our disturbing the people, so I just wanted to let you know that.
Appreciate it, Julie.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I know I took a little bit of time, but this is an important issue on many counts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to leave because I have a detectives meeting involved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there further reports? Hearing unlimited public comment. This time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Good morning, Doug Klein from Hastings Township. I'm also serving on the Parks Commission. Just a quick request of you in the next couple weeks as the run-up to the election occurs here. When you're meeting with your constituents, please mention the Charlton Park millage renewal and your support for that. I hope I have everyone's support on that. We need to get that millage passed this year to support our park system. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there further public comment?
Oh, would you like to go? Okay. Oh, okay. All right. I'll be quick. Hi, my name's Betsy Colgan. I was actually not going to comment at all, but after listening to Julie, I feel like I have to. I've been an election worker for the last 4 years, and it's impossible to change votes, mess with the machine. There are so many checks and balances, it's just unbelievable in every part of the process. So to all those people who believe there's a voter fraud, election fraud, sign up to be an election worker. Take the training. Come in, see how it works. I bet you'll be convinced otherwise. That's all.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Good morning, Shelley Lake. Just want to read something here really quick about the election. There's a word called impracticable, and it's defined as unsuitable for use or purpose. The right of an election clerk to decide if the tabulator uses impracticable is found at Michigan Law 168.798B. There are 5 reasons why a clerk should declare the use of tabulators impracticable. Funny word. 168.194A3 requires the establishment of rules for accuracy testing be, and this word gets me, promulgated through the Administrative Procedures Act. This 2002 requirement was to be defined before the universal voting system began in 2016. It should have been done when the universal voting system was final in 2018. It remains undone, and the existing rules date back to 1979 and are for accuracy testing of a mechanical system with hanging chads, not an electronic voting system like we have. 1979. The error rate of a tabulator, which was established by the federal HAVA, which is the Help America Vote Act, is exceeded. The optical scanned ballot cannot report a result incorrectly more than 1 per 125,000 ballots. That's what was set by the law. This means the error rate for 6 million votes is 48 ballots misread. In Antrim County alone, it exceeded the total errors in 2020. This accuracy is also required by 168.795. A biggie is the audit trail. You've got to be able to audit these. And the lack of an audit trail as required by 168.795K. So to have an audit trail requires an audit, access, and security logs. The audit trail starts with the registration, the poll book, verifying the check-in, the ballot optical image, the cast vote record, and the table of votes, which is the tabular puts them in a table, and the accumulated results called a statement of votes, the official record. Michigan clerks were instructed to delete the electronic log 7 days after the election. And many other gaps occurred. 7 days. The uniform system is configured per Havas to meet the security and transparency guidelines under federal law. And this starts with the standards of VVSG 2.0, that's the software. Next is the voting system test tabulator, which must be accredited by the EAC, and then examine the system as configured and report whether the system is certified as meeting or exceeding VVSG. None of these systems meet that requirement.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Is there further public comment?
Hope my time is started because I'm still getting here. My name is Mike Snyder, and I live in the city of Hastings. This last week I had a chance to go down to visit my granddaughter at Duke University, which is on the swim team. And at dinner that night, we had a long conversation about the college. Surprisingly enough, Duke is only 7,000, and they compete against the big universities, Tech, Georgia Tech, and NC, so forth. But, if you look at the basketball team, how they take a small university, a small group together and make such a great team. The swim team is the greatest. My daughter was 1, 2, and 3. Granddaughter 1, 2, and 3. They broke the conference record in the relay, and she was second and third in the free, and also the butterfly. But I look at Georgia Tech being a lot like Berry County. We're surrounded by giants, and so is Duke. And see what they accomplished, the vision they have. Their coach, basketball coach, of course, is not going to be there this year, got a new one coming up, but he's been a basketball coach as assistant for a number of years. So they have planned ahead, they have vision where he's going to retire. That college is absolutely beautiful. And I asked her about safety at that college. She said, no problem. They feel very safe at that college. Why? Because it has zero tolerance. I look at Berry County the same way. I came back here, and what do I see? I just learned this last week that we have an empty building out there that's been out there at Algonquin Lake for how many years empty. I did take a walk out there and look at it. It's a beautiful building. My God, it's great. And the setting is nice, and 22 acres of forest. Why is that empty? Why hasn't that been mentioned? Why hasn't something been done about it? Either leasing it out or does something with that building? I came into town here and I look at the building over here. Look at the windows. I see broken Venetian blinds hanging out in the windows. This is the center, the heart of Berry County. And people come in here, and when you look at stuff like that, it leaves an impression. I think this is what I feel, that it's part of your job, not to do it, but maybe to see that something like this gets done. So, it's a great common fourth generation here in this county. I love it. Unfortunately, I'm going to be the last generation because there's nothing here for my children to get into as far as jobs and work and stuff. But, and we have a lot of history here. My uncle was mayor for a number of years. And so, I love this community. But I don't see it progressing like what I should be. We drove back roads through Ohio, going down instead of taking the interstate. I see in these smaller towns progress. I see new housing taking place. I see new industries going up. Even though the pandemic didn't hurt them, they planned during the period of time. I went to my home in Dayton, and I built a home about 40 years ago. I got lost in there because
We're glad you made it back, Mike.
Okay.
3 minutes.
Okay, I just a second.
Yeah.
But I got lost. The progress in that community was great. I'd like to see Berry County do the same thing. Thank you.
If you can get Coach K up here, we will gladly take him. Is there further public comment? Hearing none, we'll move ahead. Bears correspondent.
Did you want?
I don't want to, no, but I feel like I need to say something. Sharon Olson, Irving Township Clerk. I did ask for an investigation. It's been enumerated here several times why I asked for the investigation. I do not believe that anybody in Berry County has done anything nefarious with elections. That's not my concern, Berry County. If there is something going on, I can't say one way or the other because by our prosecutor's own admission, she said there's nothing there and didn't look at the machines. That's my concern based on what I believe was a surveillance of my building after a phone call asking for access to our system one day after our accuracy test in a township that does not have cell coverage at the building. That's my concern, and I think it warrants being looked at. It warranted being looked at, and the warrant was not honored. That's, for right now, that's all I'm going to say. I don't think anybody in Berry County has anything to be ashamed of other than anybody not willing to actually look a little bit farther. I think the states like Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin that have looked at it and are finding other evidence that is available to the public. Anyone who wants to look, just Google it. Or DuckDuckGo or something else. BitChute it probably, because a lot of it on YouTube has been shut down and not pushed forward and hard to find. But it's not impossible to find for anybody who actually wants to look.
Thank you for your comments. Is there further public comment?
What she said. Seriously. There's some things that are be coming down the pipe here that are going to come across her desk, and it took a lot of time to go get that information. And that's nothing that the clerks, again, have done anything wrong. They have information we needed to make a case. We decided to go the FOIA route because of all the emails that were being sent to me from other clerks from all around the state, and they were almost threatening by the Secretary of State's office, saying you need a search warrant, you need this, so we decided to go a FOIA route. So that's where the FOIAs come in. There's a lot more. There's stuff on Dominion right now that's coming in lawsuits that they were not certified. They are supposed to be certified by the, it wasn't HAVA, EAC, isn't it? Yeah, EAC, it's a federal organization, and EAC was out of their information or their ability to do that had been expired. Dominion's is expired. So we've been using expired, unqualified machines since at least 2020. So there's a lot more to this than what's being told, and I probably gave you more information than I should have today, but something needed to be said to help her out and what she's been looking at. Also, we've had whistleblowers come up who were actually working in Venezuela. One of the things they did in Venezuela, excuse me, what they're doing in Venezuela is they would, these are computerized, ladies and gentlemen. You can program to anything you want. Yes. There's a long history on that, and you guys will be getting that history here pretty soon of what we were looking at. You can program these tabulators to even jam. That's what they're doing in Venezuela. So what they do, they switch the old tabulator out with a new one. Sound familiar? And to flip their election. Now, Pam, I have to say kudos, because when she was going to this Dominion, I asked for a paper trail, and she says it's already coming. I already got that set in place. So we do have that. But a lot of this stuff that happened with her is stuff that whistleblowers from all around the country have been giving us information. So thank you.
Further public comment? Hearing none, we'll move ahead. Various correspondence. Does any commissioner have any correspondence to share with the board? Hearing none, consent items.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the October 11th, 2022 Board of Commissioners meeting minutes. Approval of October 18th, 2022 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. C, approval to accept the attached reimbursement grant agreement in the amount of $20,584 for the shelter equipment and improvements from 270 Incorporated. D, approval of the 2022 apportionment report for Berry County. E, approval of the attached reaffirmation and amendment of right-of-way easement agreement between Wolverine Power Supply Cooperative Incorporated and Berry County. F, approval of the attached First Amendment to restated STEP wastewater system maintenance agreement between the City of Hastings, Carlton Township, and Berry County, and to authorize the Chair of the Board of Commissioners to sign it.
Second, Gibson.
Motion by Getty, supported by Gibson to, motion by Getty, supported by Gibson to approve the items listed under the consent agenda. Discussion is not allowed and roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk call the roll.
Campbell.
Aye.
I have changed to the minutes if I'm allowed to.
That request has come and gone. The opportunity to change has come and gone. We are in roll call now.
But I just tried to say it.
Clerk will call the roll.
Connor, absent.
Okay, I'll make it later.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye. The consent agenda is approved. So when we get to approval of written agenda, the first thing the chair asks is if items need to be removed from the consent agenda and placed under items for consideration. Anybody in the public can ask that. It has been done before. And once the consent agenda is set, then there is no discussion. That is why it's the consent agenda. Presentations, we have none. Public hearings. Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025. Without objection, I'll now close the regular session to convene a public hearing on the Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025. Hearing no objection, the public hearing is now open. I will extend the opportunity to anyone in support, opposition, or neutral to speak 3 times before moving on. Does anyone wish to speak in support of the Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025? Does anyone wish to speak in support of the Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025? Does anyone wish to speak in support of the Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025? Hearing none, the clerk will note that no one was present to speak in support. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025? Thank you.
Good
Please,
morning.
please state your name and your city or township of residence.
Courtney Zinni, City of Hastings.
Thank you.
I am speaking today as Executive Director of the Commission on Aging. I do appreciate the time. I am hoping to be in front of you in the near future talking about good things. But today I do need to request one last time that you consider further discussion on the previously presented budget appeal for $31,000 towards the roof repair at the Commission on Aging building. While I understand the concern about setting a precedence, the precedent was actually already set back in July of 2019 when you did approve repairs on the flat portion of the roof. For someone new coming into the situation, I wish there was some sort of agreement. I wish there was a lease agreement. I wish there was a memorandum of understanding, something that could guide my office as well as the commissioners on how to move forward in this situation. But we don't have that. All we have right now is an understanding that was probably appropriate 20 years ago. But I just ask you to consider, is that understanding still appropriate 20 years later? I do continue to believe, and I will strongly say this over and over again, that the commissioners and the COA board and myself all have the same desired end goal. We all intend to work together. We will continue, hopefully, those great relationships regardless of the outcome of this particular funding request. We're going to continue, the Commission on Aging Board and our building committee will continue searching for a reasonable alternative for a facility to provide our services out of. In the end, this building is a county asset, and I just wish that maybe we could look farther down the road than right now. At some point, the building will have to be addressed, whether we are the tenants or somebody else is the tenant, or the building needs to be sold. So just again, asking that perhaps you could reconsider that appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition to the Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025?
Bill Nesbitt. I reside here in the city of Hastings. I'm here to speak out in support of the Commission on Aging. In the Berry County General Fund expenditure sheet that was released under items 999-672, Commission on Aging appropriations, each of the articles there have a blank dash. There are no funds set aside out of the general fund expenditures of the county that go towards the Commission on Aging. So when they need a roof to protect your building, it's your responsibility. I appreciate Julie Pratt's presentation this morning. I ask that you do reconsider your vote and reinstate the funds needed for that third detective. As a former employee of the county, I was a civil process server. I didn't handle anything on the criminal side, but I do know the amount of work it took to do asset investigations in order to enforce court-ordered evictions and seizures for sale of property. As an employee of this county for 2 years, in 2002, 2003, I falsified my time slips to reflect an 80-hour pay period when in fact I was working 12, 14-hour days, 6 days a week. I understood the budget needs of the department. So I went ahead and did the work, and then I contracted before this board in 2003, the end of 2003, to take on those services as a private contractor. I went from a civil division employee of 1, myself, to 8 employees within 2 years to handle the casework that was due to come to me under contract as the civil deputy of Berry County. So I put a lot of time, a lot of effort. I've saved this county tons of money. I continue to save this county money by the fact that when I contracted services, I waived a $1,500 monthly fee for services. So $18,000 a year is saved to this very day from 2004. So I'm asking you to take a good hard look at what you're doing here. By defunding this detective, you're sending a message that you're willing to defund needed personnel in this county. And in the last week or two, I hear that there's a new grant from the state of Michigan where you're allowed to have up to $20,000 for tuition and $4,000 in wages to send somebody to an academy.
Thank you for your comments. Is there further public comment? Excuse me. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition to the Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025?
Sharon Zabrowski, Carlton Township, also on the COA board. And again, it is your building. It is your responsibility to take care of your buildings. I pay property taxes. I am a property owner. I pay taxes to you to take care of the county. That includes county buildings. I also pay a millage to COA. I pay that millage so that they can provide services for seniors, not so they can take care of your building. I kind of feel like I'm getting to pay this tax twice to take care of your building. I also have another concern. Charlton Park, they're asking for a millage. I see nothing in the budget that takes care of the issue of the misuse of this millage money. You all know that I have been a champion for this park for as long as I've been coming up here. I had stated when you put the two boards together and made the commission that there could be financial problems. I was hoping I was going to be wrong, but I'm not. I do not want to vote for a millage that's going to continue to be misused. I would like to see something in this budget, both for the COA and to take care of the issue with Charlton Park. I have talked to several people, and the answer I get is, we're aware of the problem, we don't know what to do. Well, somebody should know what to do, and it should be reflected in this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition to the Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025? Last call. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition to the Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025? Finally, hearing none, we'll move ahead. Does anyone not necessarily in support or opposition wish to speak on the Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025? Does anyone not necessarily in support or opposition wish to speak on the Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025? Does anyone not necessarily in support or opposition wish to speak on the Berry County proposed 2023 budget with projections for 2024 and 2025? Clerk will note no other individuals wish to speak on the Berry County budget, and without objection, the public hearing will now close. The public hearing is closed. Items for consideration.
Items for consideration. I move for the approval of claims in the amount of $84,731.27.
Support.
Motion by Jackson, support by Smelker for approval of claims in the amount of $84,731.27. Is there discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Connor absent. Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye. The item is approved.
Item B, I move for the adoption of Resolution 22-13 to adopt the 2023 Berry County Budget, General Appropriations Act, and millage.
Support.
Motion by Jackson, supported by Smelker for adoption of Resolution 2213 to adopt the 2023 Berry County Budget, General Appropriations Act, and millage. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Connor absent. Geiger.
Aye. The resolution is adopted.
Item C, I move for the approval of the attached offer from General Capital Group to purchase a portion of the parking lot adjacent to the former Friend of the Court building, subject to review and approval by legal counsel.
Support, Gibson.
Motion by Jackson, supported by Gibson for approval of the attached offer from General Capital Group to purchase a portion of the parking lot adjacent to the former Friend of the Court building, subject to review and approval by legal counsel. Any discussion? Thank you to the individuals that served on the negotiating team for this. Bruce, Dave, and John. Anytime you have John Smelker negotiating, I'm sure it's lovely, right? No, all kidding aside, this is a good deal for Berry County. It's a good deal for Hastings. We see a demand for housing, and we see a demand for housing here in Hastings. So rarely are we given the opportunity to do something made out of bricks and mortar that we can see fruits of our labor. And while we didn't do a whole lot other than cut a deal for some unused parking lot, it is significant, and I think we all should be proud. So thank you all for your work on that. Any thoughts?
As we have said before, it's still got a long ways to go. But this opens the pathway for the negotiations with the City of Hastings and Planning and Zoning to keep the process moving forward, hopefully in November. So
It does open the pathway with a nice ramp. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the question before the board is approval of the attached offer from General Capital Group to purchase a portion of the parking lot adjacent to the former friend of the court building, subject to review and approval by legal counsel. Clerk, call the roll.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smoker.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Connor absent. Getty.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye. The item is approved. We have no new business. County Administrator's report.
I'm all set, thank you.
I don't have any report. The Vice Chair's not here. Commissioner reports. We'll start with Commissioner Jackson.
I am all set, thanks.
Commissioner Campbell.
I attended the Barry Eaton Health Department meeting last Friday. We heard reports from environmental health divisions, personal and community health divisions, and administrative divisions. Also received literature on communicable diseases. Last night I attended the CAA meeting in Battle Creek. The main order of business was approval of a new CEO. Courtney Loeb will be taking over for Michelle Williamson. This morning earlier, I attended the Board of Public Works meeting.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gibson.
At my Hastings Township meeting, they talked about funds for the roads, they talked about the parking lot, they talked about budget adjustments, they talked about the 2023 salary resolution. At the transit meeting, we're down 2 drivers. There's an advertisement in the paper to try to get some drivers down there. Ridership is up 10,000 people over the same time last year. We have Matt Funk is working hard on getting us registered to do the newly required driver's training in-house. It costs $4,000 per employee to train them to drive the buses. We're going to try to do it in-house and save that $4,000 per person. At the council meeting last night, they approved a request for Brian Shumway, Post Historian, and Richard Craven, commander of the Hastings American Legion, to hold Veterans Day ceremonies at the Veterans Plaza, Tyden Park on Friday, November the 11th, 2022 at 11 a.m. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Smelker.
Just have a airport meeting coming up tomorrow afternoon.
Great. Commissioner Getty.
I also attended the Barry Eaton District Health Department meeting. We heard reports, they're called Program Impact Stories, from 3 departments in the health department. And I can't emphasize the word impactful enough of the program reports that we heard from household hazardous waste, which we heard last week or a week before. But the hearing and vision screening, over 20,000 kids screened in school districts between the 2 counties, and the communications director, I think is her position. Just really bringing home the impactful work that our health department is doing in communities, and how that affects individuals, suicide hotlines, the kids with needs that are identified through the screening processes, either for vision or hearing, that wouldn't have been picked up. Those kids could have struggled for years in classrooms and not identified. So I appreciated the administrator's vision to bring those stories to our meetings, because it does make our work seem meaningful.
It does. It does. Thank you, Commissioner. Limited public comment at this time. Any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
David Hatfield, City of Hastings. I just want to reiterate on behalf of a number of the groups in the community that are working on housing, the action that you just approved this morning. I am particularly appreciative of your understanding that that response to General Capital needed to be done on a timely basis, and your creativity and how to respond to that, I think, was very positive. So I just want to thank you on behalf of all of those groups.
Thank you.
Job well done.
Further public comment.
Hello. I will be submitting, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the process of the minutes and having them approved, but in the October 11th meeting, I did not say that I agreed there was no fraud in Berry County. What I said was, I fully trust our clerks. They did a great job. They did not, in my eyes, do anything wrong. So I will be submitting something to get that fixed, because that's an important difference. And I also will say that election fraud is never going to be found by people not willing to at least listen to the other side. And due to the tabulators not being certified, the software not certified, a memo has gone out to all of our township clerks, and this is all throughout the United States, and our county clerks, that these tabulators should not be used November 8th. We should be doing hand counts. We have plenty of people willing to do that. They are not certified. The legal ramifications immediately after the election will become really clear. The cost, the time that will be involved. There's plenty of people to help. The clerks have that authority to do hand counts, and it's their duty to look at the law and say, I can't use this machine. If your spouse was in the hospital hooked up to a machine that was keeping them alive, would you be okay with the doctor saying, well, it's not certified, it's kind of not, and it has an error rate well above the level it should be? No, this is just as important. Last thing, we have great local newspapers. One just raised their rates, and I read where they said because their reporters and editors go and spend an enormous amount of time researching both sides, and I can appreciate that. And I welcome any newspaper who would like to have a meeting and hear the facts on the problems with the machines and maybe publish something about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
I just want to comment on a tendency I've seen from boards to assume that one person is behind a group of people coming to a meeting, which is what I was accused of this past week at my meeting, accused of calling people to come to the meeting and speak on a subject. That didn't happen. I have gotten calls from people asking when the meeting is, but I have not recruited people to come to my meeting and speak. I heard our prosecutor say that one person had a problem with the health department, when in fact hundreds of people came to a meeting that had to be moved to another building. And I just don't think that's fair to cut somebody from a group like that and put the pressure on one person to be responsible for something that a group is coming to be heard about. And this comes down to authority. What is it? Who has it? And where does it come from? By consent of the people. By consent of the people. By consent of the people. Authority is vested in leadership by the people. And to accuse one person of bringing a gang in to address a board is wrong. Every person who took time out of their life to come and speak to you deserves to be honored as the person who's given you that authority to sit where you sit. And that's true for me too. It's responsibility, it's not authority, it's responsibility. Do you have the ability to respond or not? I'm sorry, but it upsets me to see people ostracized because they had the nerve to speak something that other people are afraid to say. And that needs to change in this country. Freedom of speech is fundamental. Intimidation, ostracization, and defamation is illegal for a reason. It's because it's effective. And that needs to stop.
Thank you. Further public comment? Hearing none, we'll move ahead. Other business. We have none. Commissioner comments. Start with Commissioner Getty. Do you have any?
Go vote.
I agree.
Who?
No comment.
Couple things. Next Wednesday, November 2nd, 1 to 4 p.m., Berry County Economic Success Summit 2022. Quentin Messer, CEO of Michigan Economic Development Corporation, will be the keynote speaker. There'll also be people from consumers talking about future trends in energy. The Right Place in Michigan's going to be here. We'll be talking about rural development, also the Michigan State Housing Authority. Jim Roby will be there. It's a fast. There's several speakers. There's a lot of information. You can get tickets either online or through the chamber. But if you're interested in looking at your state and nation at a macro level, and also getting information on how it impacts us locally in Berry County and what the trends are moving forward in the future, it's a great 3-hour, fast-moving, informational, educational. So I would encourage commissioners and any guests who want to attend that. It's a fantastic event. They put it on once a year. A lot of time, effort, and energy goes into it, so your support would be appreciated, and I think you'd be very enlightened by what's coming, especially as we keep hearing words of recession and inflation, especially in 2023. So there'll be some great information there. I know Mike, great information on Duke University. And to answer your question, the ad hoc committee that recently was given some expanded authority will be looking at all those county facilities that have not been addressed or that are vacant or have opportunities to be further enhanced. So we will be doing that. I know, Michelle, you would ask continually about the ARPA funding, and you probably saw the article in the paper, if you didn't, about Freeport and the progress that's been going on that. And we will continue to work on getting other updates as those are available as well. And just a few thoughts, because anytime someone like Julie comes in and spends 30 or 40 minutes very passionately talking about the county, I thought that was a great insight as to her job and the relationship between law enforcement and the prosecutor's office and how that works. I wasn't here when the initial discussion on eliminating that detective position was debated and ultimately taken out of the budget. I think this board should consider reinstating that at some point in the near future. The thing that I think continues, and I think several of you have commented on this as well, that we continue to hear is that we have a detective dedicated to one specific thing when Julie's telling us the need is immense, that there's a lot of need in the county for it. So we have one detective working on this, everything in the county, and one detective working on election fraud, if I'm understanding what we've heard from the sheriff, from the prosecutor, and from talking to people. And that's frustrating to many of our constituents who don't understand why we continually hear voting in Berry County is safe, there is no election fraud, our clerks are doing a great job, that everything is good. But our chief law enforcement officer has cited the Ledger Law to pursue election fraud outside of the county. So there's some confusion and some frustration there, and I'm not sure how to answer all that going forward, but I don't deny that there is a need that this board needs to consider with that detective in the future. I think many of us would like to see the sheriff's election investigation wrapped up, completed. It just seems like this is going to be one of those things that continues to go on, and it's something that seems to be out of our control locally. So we can research that information, and we can find instances. We continue to hear about things that pop up, and then they go away, and then something else pops up. So I don't know where it was. I know the same machines that we used in 2016 when President Trump was elected were the same machines they used in 2020 when, we have a different, when Biden was elected. So there's so much information and confusion on this. We would love the focus to be on our county. And I don't mind putting a detective in place to focus on our county, and we hope that we can get there at some point in the near future. Just my thoughts. Kind of going off the cuff there, but just my thoughts. So.
Thank you, David. Two things. Next month, I plan on having a discussion and taking action to allocate the remainder of the ARPA funds, or at least developing a plan for how they will be allocated. I mentioned to, I think all of you individually, that was a goal for this year, and I still plan on making it happen. And finally, just a comment. We've talked a lot about finding answers so we can get things done, so we can find justice. But I have to say, can somebody answer this question? Where does Pam Palmer go to get her reputation back?
I don't think I lost it.
She has been dragged through the mud so unfairly. She's a great coach. And thank you, Pam. I have no doubt that we're going to have a great election in a couple weeks. So thank you, Pam, for all your hard work. That concludes my comments, and without objection, the board will now adjourn.